I assume you've been read your rights?
We're going to need a yes or a no.
Yes.
And you've declined legal counsel?
Yes.
Mr. Chambers, do you know why you're here?
Well then, I'm Detective Howard Roberts. This is Detective Ashley Smith. We're with the Essex State Police Detectives Unit. We just have a few questions for you.
A few questions?
Mr. Chambers, do you know what happened to the
Mr. Chambers. Algernon? Can I call you Algernon? We're going to be here for a bit. Algernon, just tell us about the past few days. Just start at the beginning.
I was on a tour.
Why were you on a tour?
I recently become interested in genealogy. My family had roots in Ipswich, and the tour was making a stop there. The tour was supposed to be a New England Genealogical Society Antiquing and Architecture tour. We'd started the day in Rockport and had gone to Gloucester and Manchester for lunch. Dinner was going to be in Ipswich, but after passing through Essex, we'd stopped off in a town called Innsmouth. I had to get away from the nattering old ladies, so I just walked off on my own. Didn't take long for me to wish I hadn't. No one's ever going to give Massachusetts an award for friendliest people, but Innsmouth was in its own division. It was clear just walking down the street that none of these people wanted anything to do with us. It was the people were weird. They were unfriendly, like I said, but they also all looked, I don't know, backwoodsy.
We get it. What does this have to do with what you did?
Everything. I knew I should be back at the bus, but on the way, I met a guy named Ed Allen. He seemed normal. Drunk, but normal. When Ed realized I was standing in front of him, he seemed surprised to see a face he didn't recognize. Started going off about the town, the people, that he'd lived there for years, and they were never right. You could tell an outsider because they don't look like Innsmouth, he said. He had a local wife, bore a local kid, but even so, he was still an outsider. After another swallow of the foul stuff he was drinking, he went off on what people did at night, going down to the shore and cavorting with things that crawled out of the sea. He'd only seen them once. He said he'd always known his wife and her family were part of some strange religion, but when he followed her down to the shore one night and seen her with the things he called fish heads, all the townspeople were there, worshiping the things, feeding them, and acts more terrible and blasphemous. At one point, she looked over and saw him standing there in the dark, and he ran. He cried here. He cried and refused to look me in the eye. Ed had gone home and smothered his child in the crib. His wife never came home, and no one ever came to ask him about it. And he hasn't been sober a day since. It had been a fanciful tale, right? The drunken ramblings of a man whose guilt over the loss of his child and wife drove him to crazed imaginings. He seemed very, very serious in what he said, but it couldn't possibly be real. I stumbled back to the bus, feeling sick to my stomach. The bus had broken down when the driver tried to bring it around. So the tour company put us up in a local motel, and, well, that was it. I woke in the night to hear noises in the hall, wet, sucking sounds. I knew as much as I'd ever known anything that I had to run. And I ran into the night. Unfortunately, I picked the wrong direction to run. I just wanted to be away from the motel. I wasn't thinking about it rationally. Otherwise, I never would have run toward the ocean. I needed to see who it was, what it was that I was running from. And then I saw and I knew that to the people of Innsmouth, outsiders had two purposes: breeding and feeding. When I woke up, a couple of rally cops were standing over me. They brought me here to meet you.
Well, that was a very interesting story.
Yeah, interesting. That's a word for it.
Mr. Chambers, would you be surprised to learn that your tour bus was never scheduled to go through Innsmouth? Nobody ever remembers you coming through or even having bus trouble?
I think maybe...
Algernon, 5 people died last night. They found their bodies near where the Rowley police found you, out in the middle of nowhere. Nobody knows what happened to the other 14
You
tourists.
butchered them, didn't you, you son of a bitch?
I think I'm understanding something.
Understanding what, Algernon? We don't understand.
I don't think I'm Algernon Chambers.
Now, Algernon, Mr. Chambers.
No, listen to me. I can feel it. I felt it ever since I talked to the old man. Inside, I'm turning into one of them. Maybe I'm Junior Allen, a fish head. Maybe I also realized something else.
What's that, Mr. Chambers?
Howard, he's out of his cuffs!
What? Ah!